everybody, and welcome to NorCal Slot Car Scene. As most of you know, the majority of my videos are race reports or how-to articles. This is a little bit different, and we're going to be doing an unboxing and first look at the Thunderslot Shelby Mustang GT350. The first thing you notice when you take this car out of the box is the proportions of the body. This has been discussed in detail on message boards and websites, and it's not quite right, but it's not that bad either. As you can see here, the main issue is probably the rear flanks of the car. They're just not quite like the actual car. When it comes to the detail of the body, there were 3 or 4 things that I noticed that just weren't quite right. First, the stripes. As you can see from this photo, where the stripes hit the windshield, it kind of looks like it's double painted or overlaid. It just is not clean. The second thing I noticed was in the back. When you look at the rear view, they just have a clear piece of plastic that's supposed to be the gas cap, and it has no detail on it. Another small detail is the Shelby badge on the side of the car. It's in the wrong position, and it's a decal as opposed to the real car having a badge. One final overall impression. The car is a street car, but the interior has a driver with a helmet and a roll bar installed. Shelby never raced the GT350 as a fastback, only as a notchback, and Pioneer makes several versions of that car with different race liveries. One final nitpicky thing about the driver. When you look inside, you can see his right hand is on the shifter, but the steering wheel is at an angle. It looks like he's driving a semi-truck. It just doesn't look correct. We can probably agree that body proportions and overall detail are not Thunderslot's strong points. But when you take the body off and look at the performance end of the car, that's where Thunderslot shines. The drivetrain comes straight out of the other Thunderslot cars. If you've ever driven one, you know it's a very smooth, fast motor, and the gears work just fine. When you take the body off the car, you'll notice that the chassis is completely different than almost any other 1/32 scale slot cars. It's very similar to a 24 scale flexi car in that the guide and the motor pod are one piece, and there's a perimeter frame that holds the body. The body is attached to the perimeter frame with 4 torque screws with 4 grommets between the chassis and the body to isolate vibration. If you're new to Thunderslot and don't have a Torx driver, you won't even be able to remove the body from the chassis. The Torx driver you see here actually comes packaged with aftermarket screws from Slotting Plus, so it can't be very expensive for them to do. The front wheels are standard press-on plastic that we've come to expect from Thunderslot. The front axle ride height is adjusted by the standard 4 set screw system as used in most other slot cars. Thunderslot, however, has installed the set screws for you, so all you have to do is set the ride height and you're ready to go. The rear wheels, however, are aluminum air style with 2 air channels instead of the standard 1 air channel in most other brands. Most of the other manufacturers of higher-end slot cars use snap-in guides, but Thunderslot is using a screw-in guide that makes for a much more precise fit. There are also channels in the front of the chassis to route the lead wire up to the guide so it doesn't get in the way of any of the other moving parts. When you take a look at how the motor is mounted, Thunderslot is using 2 screws to secure the motor to the chassis, which is a great idea and prevents chattering under acceleration. That rear motor screw, however, does create a problem. The set screw in the wheel actually hits that screw when the motor is turned. There's a couple solutions for this. One would be to space the wheel out a little bit more. The second would be to take the motor screw out and file it down so it's not as tall and doesn't hit the set screw. In the next few days, I'll be blueprinting the car and setting it up for running on a wood track without magnets. So what are my opinions of the car? As far as the body and the appearance, I give it a B-. It's not quite on the par with NSR or Slotted. As for performance features, it's at the top of the list. The only real issue being that one with the set screw hitting the motor screw. Overall, I'll give the car a B. There's really no place to race this car as it's in kind of a class of its own. It's not fair to race it with a Scale Electrics or a Carrera car, and there's nothing else in the Trans Am or that type of racing that it can compete with. That being said, The best thing for these Thunderslot Mustangs is probably going to be an IROC set, since they come in a variety of colors. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned, because in the next few days I'll be blueprinting the car and getting it on the track and see how it actually performs. This is Jim Rose with NorCal Slot Car Scene, and we'll see you next time.